This is a wireless HDMI transmitter and receiver unit. Now, I received this originally to do a review on my Amazon channel where I talk about a lot of gizmos and gadgets and gear, but I thought this would be a really good YouTube video as well to answer the question whether or not you can use something like this to transmit your video from your PTZ camera. Now, I've already unboxed this and I've already recorded this, but the recording file corrupted. So I'm recording this again just for you. So here I have a PTZ optics camera and a transmitter that was sent over to me for free for review. So I figured that I would go ahead and set this up for you in real time and show you what's included in this box. Now we have a transmitter unit and a receiver unit that are pretty much identical. The only difference is that this one shows TX, which is for transmit, and the other one shows RX, which is for receiver. So our receiver will go onto our ATEM mini video switcher side, and our TX will go into our source, which in this case will be our PTZ camera. Now, in addition to the transmitter and receiver itself, we also have antennas. So you would simply just screw on these antennas for both units, and we have pretty much completed the process. At least this is what I thought, because there's also USB-C to USB cables in here as well. And unfortunately, doing a wireless system won't quite be wireless with this setup, because you do have to use the USB cable to power on both the transmitter and the receiver. So we have our USB side here and our USB-C in the transmitter and receiver. Now, one of the things that I wanted to try to do is actually use this camera to see if I could send power from the camera to the transmitter, because this camera is actually being powered by our power over Ethernet switch, which supplies it power. However, I've ran into one problem. Now, trying to see if this would work by plugging in your USB into the camera is no issue. Simply plug it in and there we go. But the problem I did come across is that I can't quite plug this into the camera. This device is a little wide, and so if you have an SDI port close to your HDMI port, it might not work because you won't even be able to connect it into the port without jamming it against the SDI port. So my other camera, this is the BZB Gear camera. This one actually has an HDMI connection that is vertical rather than horizontal. So when I plugged it into this camera, I was able to plug it in with no problem with the physical connection. So I'm going to continue by connecting the HDMI or the USB into the bottom of this one. And because this particular camera doesn't have a USB port, I'm now actually going to have to put this into some physical power, which is not the ideal situation. But the benefit of this video will be to see, can you use something like this, something similar, to actually send your video signal wirelessly? So let's continue the process. So on my desk here, I have some external power, and one of the ports just happens to be a USB port. So I've gone ahead and connected the USB part of this cable to the transmitter, and then I've placed the camera obviously here on the desk, and then also plugged in my network cable, which is giving power to my camera. So now it's time to plug the receiver into my ATEM mini, which is sitting on that side of the desk, and finish this process. So I've gone ahead and plugged in the receiver into the ATEM, and as you can see, it's plugged into port 1 on the ATEM, and we have a green signal. So now it's searching for the transmitter, which is the PTZ camera that's on the desk. So now it's time to power on that receiver and see if it's actually going to send the signal to our ATEM, and if it does, we should be able to see a video here and a video here. So we're getting an image, but obviously it's not the right image. Now, one of the things that I do know about the ATEM mini is that port 1 or input 1 HDMI on the ATEMs is a little different. So I'm going to actually try this in port 2 to see if that makes a difference. So it's doing the same thing in port 2. So the ATEM mini can be eliminated. So let's try to reset the transmitter and receiver and see if that works. But obviously we are sending a signal because we can see something. It's just not the best signal, so we have to fix that. And voila, it is finished. So all I did was simply unplug the HDMI transmitter and receiver from both the camera and the ATEM and reseed them. And now we're able to get a clean picture using input 1 on the ATEM Mini. And I also tried input 2, and both of them are showing a nice clean picture here on our multi-view camera. So on input 1 is our main camera. Multi-view is showing it right here as well. So yes, you can in fact use a wireless transmitter receiver to send video signal from your camera to your video switcher. Things to keep in mind is the distance, if you're going through walls, and even the size of the transmitter and receiver themselves, because in this case, I only can plug it into the PTZ cameras that don't have an SDI connection right next to it, or if it does, it has to be a vertical HDMI connection. But in general, this type of technology does work and it does exist. Hopefully this video helps you, and if it did, give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, look forward to seeing you hit that subscribe button and you checking out the next video.